A week ago, the Wall Street Journal did an expose talking about the Disney parks and just highlighted how much more expensive it's gotten over the last few years. So much so, in fact, that it's almost price prohibitively expensive for typical families to actually take a Disney vacation anymore, because not only has Disney raised the price on a lot of the things that you would come to expect, like the hotels and park tickets, things like that, and food costs, but also just they're nickel and diming various things that used to be included with the standard ticket. Now you have to pay extra for. And that's something that a lot of families are just checking out on, because even if they want to actually go on a Disney vacation, they just can't seem to do it. I did a video a couple days ago talking about this. You can check that out yourself if you want to see more detail on it. The reason why I'm talking about it again is because Disney had this survey for various park guests, or they asked some park guests to take a survey. And some of the questions on it, I think, are in kind of bad taste, but it also just goes to highlight how desperate Disney is in this manner, because they understand that people aren't coming to their parks anymore because they can't afford it. So instead of trying to actually figure out a way to lower the costs in order to get more people to the parks, they're basically just saying like, hey, when do you expect to get your inheritance money? Could we expect your business at that point? Not exactly, but that's kind of essentially what they're getting at with this survey. This article right here from That Park Place talks about it. Disney poll crosses the line as company asks guests about when their loved ones might die and leave an inheritance. Yeah, that's pretty bad if you ask me. When you have a company literally asking, you come into our parks, it's hard for you to afford it. Do you expect to get any inheritance money, and are we going to get a piece of that ourselves? I mean, obviously they're not going to say those exact words, but that's pretty much what they're getting at with this. In a startlingly new low for Disney, the company put out a poll asking guests to predict when their loved ones might die. You know, none of your business. I mean, that's what I would write into that survey if I was given that. According to a bombshell report from the Wall Street Journal, Disney sent a 47-page survey to Disney Vacation Club members this fall. So Disney Vacation Club members, people who regularly go to Disney for vacation, they're going to risk offending them by asking them these questions on this survey. Loaded with invasive questions about the finances, but one question in particular stood out for its morbid audacity. Disney asked respondents how likely they were to experience the loss of a family member or loved one within the next 5 years, or to be receiving, managing an inheritance. I can understand if they were asking questions in a survey like, what's your, not necessarily financial status, but like, what's your household income and stuff like that. I mean, that's good marketing information if you can actually get it, where it's like, okay, how many people are in your household? How often does your family go on Disney vacations or would like to go on Disney vacations? What's your household income? I mean, just kind of generic stuff like that. I mean, it might be considered a little invasive, but I mean, if people are voluntarily submitting those informations, it's really not that big of a deal. And it's just kind of general information, but asking them about like the loss of a family member and getting in managing an inheritance, it's like, okay, that's, I think, pushing it a little too far. Yes, you read that right. Disney issued a poll to its customers about potential family tragedies to gauge how much of them might soon be flushed with inheritance money that could be spent on opulent Disney vacations. It's a jaw-dropping, ghoulish display of corporate greed, signaling that Disney sees the loss of your loved ones not as a cause for sympathy, but as an opportunity for profit. Yes, because that's all it is for Disney. Now, I'm not saying Disney as a corporation needs to be sympathetic towards the individual customers who go there, but you shouldn't just be coming out like this and saying, like, we don't care about your family tragedy or loss. We just care about what money you can give us. I think that's kind of a bad look for them in this situation. Desperation dressed up as data collection. Melissa Buckley of Cedar Lake, Indiana, was one of those surveyed, according to the Wall Street Journal. Buckley, who works in procurement for oil industry, finally took her family on a Ford to Walt Disney World this past December, but only because of a recent inheritance. She had spent a decade saving for the trip, but unexpected bills kept pushing her dream vacation out of reach. When her family finally made it, the 4-day Disney vacation, complete with line-skipping fees and a modest hotel stay, cost nearly $6,000. And that actually is pretty modest for a family of 4 going on a vacation to Disney, because that could easily be around the $10,000 mark. It says, what was it, like a modest hotel? I'm not sure what that means, like one of the cheaper rooms on the site, or whether she saved money by staying offsite and they would actually just, I guess, commute would be the good word, commute to the Disney park. Because I mean, I went, what was it, like 5, 6 years ago to Disney, just me and my wife, and we were being pretty frugal about the whole thing. And we actually stayed at a place offsite because it was significantly cheaper and it was pretty modest, all things considered. But even then, it was still a few $1,000s for the two of us. So I can see $6,000 for a family of four managing that. But like I said, it could easily be significantly more, especially if it's just your one vacation or one big vacation for a family in quite a few years, or it's your dream family vacation. Then families could easily splurge to go quite a bit more than that. There's no way we could afford this from our savings alone, Buckley admitted. Melissa's story illustrates what Disney already knows. Their prices have soared beyond the reach of average families. And now, rather than making their parks more affordable, Disney seems to be banking on future windfalls from inheritance checks. And I don't think that's going to be a sustainable business model for them. And I said it in my video a couple of days ago when I was talking about the price increases at Disney. And just to kind of sum it up, essentially, Disney for the longest time was kind of going after the Disney adult demographic, or the adult couples, the couples who don't have any kids, have dual incomes, that sort of thing. They were going after those, and they realized like, oh, these couples could spend more money. So they started nickel and diming a lot of the everyday stuff out there, not worrying about the fact that they're chasing away their family demographic by catering to the Disney adults. Well, then come to find out, a lot of those families are like, well, I guess we just can't go, because Disney was thinking if they're spending money on these vacations, then they can spend a little bit more to get fast passes and other things like that. Well, it turns out that's not the case. Disney has basically just overcharged, and it's not like something where you're going to see a gradual slowdown of customers. What they basically hit was a tipping point where all of a sudden people just can't afford to go there anymore. And Disney is kind of in a bind right now because they can't backslide on how much they're charging for this, even though that would probably be the best thing they could do, was actually reduce the prices and then try to drive up more customers that way. Because Disney has been struggling, especially like in their Orlando park. That's their biggest moneymaker as far as parks go. And later this year, we're going to have Universal open up their Epic Universe. And that's going to be something that's probably going to cut into their business quite a bit. And this is something that Disney's looking at and understanding, like, okay, we need to make more money at our parks right now. And they're thinking if they cut the how much they charge for certain things, then that's not going to be enough, because they understand like how many people we can expect to actually visit our parks. And it's not going to be enough. So we have to keep our prices high. Otherwise, we're not going to be able, I'm not going to say they're not going to be able to sustain themselves, but it's really going to be detrimental to them as a company. So in a way, they can't actually lower their prices, or it'll be kind of difficult for them as a company to lower their prices, but they're not making enough right now. So this is what they're resorting to, trying to figure out like, okay, can we expect some money in from the people who actually want to come to our parks? And that's why they're asking about the inheritance. Disney's price gouging tactics are no secret. As we recently reported, ticket prices at Walt Disney World have soared to $194 per person per day. And this is peak season, mind you, it's not all the time. While once free perks like Fast Pass have been replaced with costly upcharges such as Lightning Lane passes, which can cost up to $449 for a single day experience. And that's if you're trying to get it for a bunch of different rides. That's not the lowest, but it says it could just get up to that one right there. Meanwhile, a 4-day vacation at a Disney Value Resort has surged from $3,230 in 2019 to $4,266 in 2024, largely due to new fees for services that were once included. Disney's own internal survey, as reported by the Wall Street Journal, show a decline in guest planning return visits, proving that families are growing tired of paying for more for less. And it really is just, there's other parks out there with better options right there. Disney hasn't really been keeping up with things and innovating. The biggest thing that they've done in recent years at their parks is changing Splash Mountain to Tiano's Bayou Adventure, and that's something that everyone overwhelmingly didn't like. In fact, if you actually want to go to a Disney park, want to still ride the original Splash Mountain, go to Tokyo Disneyland because that's still there. That's not operated by like the Disney company. That's basically a franchise operated by the Oriental Land Company. And in some metrics, it's actually cheaper. I mean, you're going to pay more to fly to Tokyo than you would to fly to one of these parks in the US, but it's still cheaper overall. Not only ticket prices, food, souvenirs, pretty much everything right there. So it's something to consider if you actually want to go on a Disney vacation, actually go to the Disney Tokyo one. Tone deaf about death, despite mounting backlash. Disney's response has been laughably tone deaf. Executives have touted affordable options like $50 kids tickets and hotel discounts crumbs that do little to offset the enormous cost of a Disney vacation. Their defense that guests have options for every budget falls flat when a family of four can spend upwards of $6,000 on a modest trip. The revelation that Disney and its disastrous parks and experiences head, Josh D'Amaro, are now probing guests about possible inheritance money confirms what many longtime fans have feared. Disney is no longer interested in creating magical experiences. They're hunting for revenue streams, even if it means capitalizing on personal loss. And yeah, there's really no way you can cut it. This just screams Disney's right now desperate for any kind of money in any way, shape, or form. When they're asking about this, I don't know how you can look at this and think like Disney's fine with all that we know about them. It really does look like Disney is kind of desperate, just looking for any type of extra money that they can get. And unfortunately for them, unless they actually do anything to drive traffic back to their parks with I don't know. I mean, they're struggling right now. I don't know if there's a whole lot they can do outside of create new attractions that make people want to go to their parks. But even if they announced it today, it would still be many years before we actually see it. And by that time, I think they would have lost a sizable portion of their business, not only to the Disney parks overseas, but also to some of the domestic parks like Universal. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think it's a little bit intrusive for Disney to ask about loss of family members and inheritance? Or do you think that does seem kind of normal when it comes to this type of market survey right there? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.